Hilchis Geneivah, yesh bechlol and sheva mitzvahs, shtei mitzvahs aseh, v'chomish mitzvahs leisaseh, v'zeu proton. Aleph, shalei ligniv mammon. Not to be goyniv mammon. We'll soon see there's a chiluk between Geneivah and Gzela. So lei ligniv mammon. Beis din haganav, the halacha of haganav. Haganav is a chiyuv kefil, it could be a chiyuv of dalad v'hei, which is as opposed to a gazan. So there's din haganav. Gimel, litzadik hamiznayim im hamishkolis. To make sure that your weights and your scales are proper scales and weights, and that they're not off. So there's the mitzvah saseh l'tzadik hamaznayim im hamishkolis. Dalid sheliyasa ovel b'midas umishkolis, that a person shouldn't actually fool someone by giving him an improper weight or weighing something improperly or measuring improperly. You know, the person, besides the fact that he's taking money from Shalik Yedin, there's a special law of liyasa ovel b'midas umishkolis. We'll learn behemshech. Hey. Le'odam even v'oven efer ve'efer. So it would be a person that wants to steal from people. So what would happen is that he has one measuring stone. In other words, the stone, a weight. He uses a weight that one weight for buying, one weight for selling. Whereas he has an official, let's say, a pound. So if the pound, when he buys it, he'd like it to really be more. So it's officially a pound, but in reality, it's a little bit more than a pound. And when he sells, he'd rather it be a little less, because like this will sell less. So when a person has two types of stones, in other words, he has 2 pound weights, but they're not the same. He has one bigger and one smaller, and that is an ephah and ephah, which is a size of a volume. So he has 2 conflicting sizes. He's not buying with it, and he's not selling with it. But the mere fact that he has these 2 conflicting stones, so to speak, of weights or sizes, that's a lav to have it in your house, to own such a thing. And vav sheli yasigvul. Yasigvul really means like to push back the boundary. There's a boundary between your field and someone else's field. So to push it back, which means basically stealing some of his field for yourself. So besides the Isser, the Rambam say, the Isser Gzela, so in Eretz Yisrael there's an extra lav of liyasigvul, which is only in Eretz Yisrael. And then Zayin sheli ligniv nefashos, which means to kidnap. Ubir mitzvaseilu beprokamilu. Peirik Rishon. Kol hagoynev momen mishava pruta l'mayla. When a person is goynev, now I'm not sure how you translate goynev, because we'll see there's a difference between a goynev and a goizel, and they have different dinim. So kol hagoynev momen mishava pruta l'mayla. If a person is goynev a shava pruta, which that's the shir, it's a shir halacha l'nism Sinai, is over aloisase. He's over aloisase. Shenamar le tignevu. So that's the lav of being goynev, and that lav you're over if you do a shava pruta. Because since it's nitn tashlumen, you have a chiyuv to pay it back. Shalim yishalim, you have to pay back. So memela, so there's a klal, a lav hanitn tashlumen is ein leiken olav. So I see that the Rambam Ha'ara brings from the Even Ozl that he says that mishum risha achas ate mechayve, v'yate mechayve mishum shtei rishis. So therefore, there's no chiyuv of tashlumen plus malchus. So when there's a chiyuv tashlumen, so there's no chiyuv malchus. But the Ma'aseh, I think we pointed out when we're learning about Hilchas Ribis in Malva V'Leva that over there the din is that there's an Isser side to be Malva B'Ribis and side to be Leva B'Ribis. And side the Malva and side the Leva don't get malchus because it's a lava nitnul tashlumen. Now the nitnul tashlumen of the Leva is not because there's no shachas at the mechayv mishtei shuri shiyus. There's the one that has to pay back is the malva, and nevertheless the leva doesn't get malchus because it's a lava nitnul hashava tashlumen. So vice is the avonis advarim is that it's a rule. You have to know what the rule is. That since it's not a final lav, in other words, it's not something which is really final. Because when a person does a lav in agaton, so that's agaton. Mashenkin over here, it's not agaton because there's still a chiyuv tashlumen. So memela, so therefore that lav there's no chiyuv of malchus. But I'll call upon him from the fact that the loiva also doesn't get malchus because of the din of lav and nitnul tashlumen. L'chura raya that has nothing to do with the din of mishum risha achas at mechayv v'at mechayv mishum shteish is l'chura. But I'll call upon Nochamol vein leiken alav zeh shaharei nitnul tashlumen. Shahaganev chivasi teira l'shalom. The teira was mechayev aganev to pay. It's a shnayim mishalom, chayim shnayim mishalom. So the teira was mechayev to pay, and something that is a lav she'isa b'tashlumen. There's no chiyuv malchus. The echad aganev mami yisrael, a agoyev mom and goy eved avid zara. Echad HaGoynev is HaGodol Eis HaKotner. So the Pashtus HaLoshon is that the lav of Geneivah applies regardless of who you're stealing from, whether you're stealing from a Yid or Lahavdil Goy or a Godel or a Kotner. The Rambam brings from the Pri Chodesh that he says that Be'emes, based on the Gemara in Bava Kama, that Be'emes, the lav is only from a Yisrael. There's another din that you're not allowed to steal from a goy, you're not allowed to be goyna from a goy because of the din of a chishav and kineo. We learn that from a different pasuk, but the lav is not from a goy. But the pashtus Lashon Rambam, if you look at the Lashon Rambam sounds like that echad hagein of misov, echad hagein meiv and avodah zarah. It's both the same din, that it's the lav. Halacha beis. Osir lignev kosher din teres. Even though the lav is only if you eat, if you're going of akshava pruta, but there's still osir lignev kosher din teres. Minatera it's osir, and the pashtus because the din of chotzi sheras minatera, and also v'osir lignev derech schek, a lignev al manas lahachzer, a al manas l'shalom hakel osir. So in other words, to take something away b'derech Geneivah, even though it was b'chinas derech schek or al manas l'shalom, or Amanas Lahagzer, all of this is Osir. And Shaliyagel Atzmi Bekach. So the Mashmois Advarim is that the Isser Geneivah Taka Be'etzem and Atera is only when you're Goynev Almanas to keep it. If you're Goynev Almanas to keep it, only then is there the actual Isser Geneivah. Mashain came the Isser of being Goynev Almanas Lahagzer or Schek Almanas L'Shalom is only Mitzat Shaliyagel Atzmi Geneivah. Halacha Gimel. Ezel Ganef. Someone that takes someone's money, baseser, and the bailam aren't aware. Kegoin, hapoishet yodil letechkis chavere, v'lokach ma'esav, ve'ein habailam reim, ve'chein kol kietzav hazeh. Avalim lokach begoli befarhesyu bechezik yod, is ein zeganef elegazn. He's taking someone's money away from him, and that person's aware of it. He's just stronger than him. Therefore, he's able to take his money away, so that doesn't go into the gather of a ganav, it goes into a gazan. Lefichach. Now, list mezuyim, which means armed robbers. Armed robbers are people that would really confront people and take away their money. They're armed robbers. But there's a hechatimtza of a list mezuyim, which is going ahead and being a ganef, which means he's taking money from someone shalei b'fonav. Now, lepel, if that person will confront him, he'll stand up against him and he'll take the money anyways. That's the idea, because list mezuyim take money even against people when the person sees him. But Lepil, since right now he's acting as a ganef and not as a gazlan, so therefore he also has a din of a gazlan. Lefichach listim mezuyim sheganef. Lepil, they went and were goynev. They weren't goizel. They were goynev. Is ain't a gazlan el a ganef. Afal pisha bailim yedim mishosh sheganef. Even if the bailim are aware that these people are there, but they're afraid to go out and confront them. And even if they would go out and confront them, the gazlan would anyways, the listim mezuyim would anyways go ahead and take it. But Lepil, since right now he's taking it derech Geneivah, not derech Zela, so he has a din of a ganef. Halacha dalet. Ganev shehidol of edim ksherim shegonav is chayev l'shalim shnayim lebal hagneva. So that's the chiddush of a ganev as opposed to a gazlan. By a gazlan there's no chiyuv kefil. Mashenkin a ganev is a chiyuv kefil. So a ganev shehidol of edim that he was ganav, so then he has to pay shnayim lebal hagneva in ganav dinner mishalim shnayim. Ganav chameri ksusei gomel mishalim shnayim b'damel. He pays double of what it's worth. Nimtza, so it comes out that the Ram Tagzul is mafsid kishir shebikesh lechaseres chaveri. This l'chura, I mean, that's like just an observation. In other words, the Torah was mechayev a ganev to pay kefil. So it comes out that the ganev ends up having to pay what he was trying to be mafsid the chaveri. I don't know if that's Megillah Halacha, this prat. In other words, it's al derech edim zein. There's a musik. When you try to do to someone else, that's what you get. So the Ram is saying that the same thing has been again the din of kefil. This Ganav was trying to be mafsid the nignav this money, so he also has to pay back the nignav, plus also to give back what he was trying to be mafsid. Halacha hey, Ganav shehoida mi'atzmi sheganav is mishalim is a karen, because the karen is moment. However, upatr min hakefil shenemar asher yashin alihim yishalum shnayim. So the din of yishalum shnayim is only that he was yashin alihim. Bezdin was mechayev him, and v'leya Mashiach atzmi mishalum shnayim. It wasn't Bezdin could only be mechayev him if there was a din of edus. Bezdin is not mechayev al pi his eidah. Bezdin is mechayev if there was edus. So if he was Mashiach atzmi, so he's not mishalom shnayim. V'hu adin l'chol haknases shahamei ben potter. The pashtus adin is that the chi of knas is something which is created through Bezdin. Bezdin is the ones that create the Chiyuv Knas. It's not that you owe the Knas and Bezdin is just enforcing it. The Bezdin creates the Chiyuv Knas, and Bezdin only creates the Chiyuv Knas if there was a Haggadas Eidos. Chiyuv Mom in the Pshat is you owe the money. So when you come along and you're moided that you owe the money, so that's a fact that you owe the money, and he does Balin, K'mei Edom Dami. Mashenkin over here, you don't owe the money. You have to create the Chiyuv. Since you don't, and to create the Chiyuv, Bezdin creates the Chiyuv. And they can only create the Chiyuv by Edom saying Edus about the facts that happened. There's a person is not believed about the facts that happened. Person is believed about the Chiyuv, but there's no Chiyuv yet, because Lepel the Knas, there's no Chiyuv until Bezdin's is Pascha. That's the Pashtus Adin of a Meida Beknasus Pot. Halacha Vov. So when a person is made that he was Ganav, so he pays the Karen, which is Momen, Mashiach, he doesn't pay the Kefil, because that's Knas. But Adin L'chol Knas is Shameida Behen Pot. Halacha Vov. Tashlumi Kefil Ne'egim Bakel. There's a din of Kefil. Anything that you steal, there's a Chiyuv of Kefil. If it's a Shava Pruta, Chutz, Miseh V'Sher. By Sev V'Sher, there's a special din, Shageiniv Es Asher, Eyes Aseh, and Lepel, the Tavach Mocher. So if there was no Tavach Mocher, there's also a din Kefil. So Pashtus is really, there's a din Kefil for a Sher and Seh as well. But if you are Tavach Mocher, the Chura you would normally say would be, from the Rambam it almost sounds like there's no din Kefil by Sher Yiseh. The Chura, the Pashta Pshat is that there's a Chiyuv Kefil by Sher Yiseh, plus by Tavach Mocher, there's another Chiyuv that you have to be mashla more. Besides the Kefil, you have to give Arba, which means another 2, or Chamisha, which is another 3. It's like a little bit tzarich bitter the lashon. Why the Rambam is like saying it keilu, like there's no kefil b'sher v'seh. But I'll that's the lashon of Rambam. Tashlumi kefil negem bakel chutz miser v'sher. You have to say that by ser v'sher is more than kefil. Shagein v'es asher eyes aseh v'tavach imocher says mishalom al aseh tashlumi arba v'al asher tashlumi chamisha. Halacha zayin. Echad ha'ish ve'echad ha'isha shegonvu chayavim l'shalom tashlumi kefil. Tashlumi arba v'chamisha. This din of tashlumi kefil, now there's a tashlumi arba v'chamisha is neik sai beisha sai beisha. Now hoysa eishasi she'in lo l'shalim is arei kefil lo le'achev. Achet is garish eyomus baila, and then ubezin nefroy mehem. So when again the Karen itself, if the original Geneivah is still ben, so you take it from her. So she returns back to Karen. If the money of the Karen is not ben, also so that money also the Baal, because the Baal is not responsible for a Geneivah that his wife did. The Baal is not responsible. The Isha has a Chiyuv on her own. Now Lepel, right now, she has no money, so there's no one to take from. Masha'enke, if she gets divorced or he dies, so then she becomes independent and she has money on her own. So then the Bezdin comes and months from her for the Tashlumi Kefil. Halacha Ches. Now Kotten Shagonav, Potter Min HaKefil, Umachzirnu Leid, knows to the Nignav, Dover Hagonav Mimanu, you take away from the cotton the Geneivah. If the cotton lost it, because the pill, the cotton has no chiyuvim. There's no chiyuvi moment of the cotton. A isha has chiyuvi moment. It just doesn't have where to pay the money from. But a cotton doesn't have chiyuvi moment, and the mela. So if the original nigna dover hagonav is be'an, so you take it away from him. Mashenker, if you want a month from the cotton, there's no one to month from. Halacha tes. Ha'evet shagonav. So we talk about isha. Now we're talking about a cotton. Now ha'evet shakotton. Shaganav is potem in kefil, and over here also potem in kefil doesn't mean that his potem will soon see that be'emes is chayiv, but he doesn't have anything to pay. And uba'ol pturim, there's no chiyuv of the bailam to pay what the eved would have to pay. She'ein adam chayiv al niski avodav. Person, even though a person is mechuyev on kol nefesh chayish b'shusi shalom, like the Rebbe began in Hilchas Niski moment. So if they were mazik, you're mechuyev to pay. But that's only talking about a behemah. Mashenka, when you're dealing with an eved, afal pishay momene, eini chayiv al niski avodav, afal pishay momene. Why? Mipnei sheyesh behem das, and therefore ve'eini yochel l'shamram. It's impossible to be shomer about das. She'im yachisenu rabbi is yelich v'yadlik godish be'elav dinner kiyetze b'zeh mishar nezokim. So therefore, since it's really impossible to be shomer and eved is capable of doing things which a behemah wouldn't be able to be capable to do if the eved is upset with the rabbi. So therefore the rabbi is absolved from any chiyuvim that the eved has. It's like an oinus. Now the shtacher eved, once the eved becomes a meshucher, so even though right now he's in the matzav of an eved, but the reason why he doesn't have to pay is because he has no money. He has no money, but be'etzem he's a mechuyev, just like an isha. And therefore, nishtacher eved is chayiv l'shalom sakef. Over here, there's a chiddush. An isha is like a baskein, just that she has a baal. Mashenkin an Eved, L'chur is a Matzias of an Eved, but nevertheless, he is Mechuyev in the Nizakin, he just doesn't have where to pay. Once he's Nishtacher, he has to pay. Halacha Yud, Roi lebezn lahakis es aktanim, kifikeach hakotten ala Geneivah, kedei sheli regilim bo. So even though a cotton, we said before, is potter, but nevertheless, the bezn should be lahakis aktanim as much as the cotton could take, not chas v'sholom to overdo it. But in order that they shouldn't be ruggle and stealing, v'chein, in doing Geneivah, v'cheinim hizikush ar nizokim, also there's an union of lahakis aktanim. V'chein makim es ha'avodim shegonvoi shehiziku makarabba. Right now they don't have anything to pay, but lepel you're supposed to be makadam a makarabba, which they're also capable of getting a bigger type of makar than a cotton. Kidei shalei yirigilim lahazik. So that should be a deterrent that they shouldn't be mazik. Halacha Yudalef. Hoysa hagneva b'yad aganef. Aganef's made a gneva, and now this gneva is lying by him. V'hishbicha meila, and they became a shvach from the gneva. Something happened. It produced kigoin, kivsa shiolde. You have a shepsel, and it gave birth, or vigazizo, or it had wool, and you sheared the wool. So the din is mishalim oisa v'ez gizisa v'ez lodisa. So side the original gneva belongs to the nignav, and side the shvach also belongs to the nignav. So you give him the gizis and you give him the vlodis. That's talking about if there was no yush yet. However, v'im acher yush yolda v'gaziza, if lepel this leda and gziza happened after yush, so then mishalim kishas hagneva. All you have to do is pay kishas hagneva. You pay the kevis, either the kevis itself or what the kevis was worth if the kevis is no longer around b'shas hagneva, and what happened, what it produced after yush doesn't belong to the original bailam. That belongs to the ganef. That's din number one. So the din is that once there was yush, so any gizis of lodis that happens after yush belongs to the ganef. Now it doesn't mean that if Marshall, if he had a full, he was ready for gizo, or if he was already muberes, and then it was yolda after yush, so everything goes to the ganef. In other words, you have to be assessed how much was there in the shvach before the yush and how much was the shvach after the yush. Now hoitzi Allah hoitzo v'hishbicha. The ganef spent money on this Geneivah. It's a new din. This is a new din. Ganef spent money on this Geneivah, and he fattened the animal that he stole, that he was goynef. So the din is harei hashvach shel haganef. Now it's a chidush that normally when a person is mashal yedel l'tech sodesh shel chaverei and he's mashbiach it, so since no one asked him to be mashbiachim, so he's yodel l'tachtena, and he only gets either he gets the hitzo, or he gets the hitzo if it's kashir hashvach, or he doesn't get more than the hitzah. Masha'in came over here, he's getting the whole shvach. Why? Because lepel, since the ganef really stole it, there's a certain gather of kinyani gneva. So memelis, even though he was mashbiach, something that didn't belong to him, and there was no yush yet, nevertheless the chiddush is harei hashvach shel hagneva. The shvach belongs to the ganef. And afilu lifnei yush. And therefore, kshemadzir hagneva makefel is netel hashvach min habaylim. Either the baylim pays him for the shvach, you make a cheshbon how much is the shvach, and you decrease that from, you minus that from the kefil. Halacha Yud Beis. Hagneva atzmo shehi b'yad haganef v'lei nishtanis is chizeres lebala. If the original gneva is still b'yad habaylim and there was no real change in the original gneva, so that goes back to the original baylim ben lifnei yush ben lacher yush. El shel acher yush hashvach leganef. In other words, if there was yush and there was shvach, so that shvach goes to the ganef, commission b'yanav. But the actual gufa gneva doesn't belong to the ganef as a result of yush. However, nishtanis hagneva b'yad haganef, if someone is goynef and the gneva changed, so then is kona, then he's kona the behema, through the shina he's kona the behema, and the kona shvacha, and the shvach is also his, va'afilu lifnei yush. And then, ve'ine mishalim el dom, then he only pays the domim of what the behema was worth, is nachamo. A person is going of a behema. So if a person is going of a behema, and then there's gizis of lodes, there's shvach, so those gizis of lodes belong to the nignav. If there was yush, so the gizis of lodes belong to the ganav, but on the other hand, the gufa gneva has to go back to the nignav. It has to go back to the nignav. If the ganav was pitma, so the ganav is entitled to the shvach that he put into it. Now this all din is, we're talking about that the behema was lein nishtanis. Masha'inkin, if there was a shina in the behema, so then that behema belongs to the ganef. then the Behema belongs to the Ganav, and the Ganav only has to pay for the Geneivah and the Gizes of Lodis that happens after the Shinui. Any Shvach that happens after the Shinui all goes to the Ganav. Halacha Yud Gimel. Ganav Kchusha v'Hishmina. Someone steals a Kchusha, a thin animal, and the Shmina means he fattened it, he gave it to eat. So Mamela, the Shvach is really his. Or Shmena, or he stole a fat animal, v'Hishmina, and he made it Kochosh. In other words, he caused it to become thinner. So then the din is Mishalim Tashlumi Kefil, a Tashlumi Arba v'Chamisha, Kishas Agneva. So by Kchusha v'Hishmina is understandable because Lepel, the Shvach is his. So really, we only reckons up with the Geneivah of what it was, how it was, B'Shas when he was Ganav, and that was a Kusha. And also B'Negeya Shmeina v'Khisha, so since he was the one that was Matkashit, so therefore we're not makel on him, even though later on we'll see that you're makel, that you don't have to pay Kishas, you don't have to pay Kishas Hagneva, you pay Kishas Hamad Bedin, but over here, since he was the one that was Matkashit, so therefore he has to pay Kishas Hagneva. So Nachamo, so Ganav Kchusha v'Ishmina, he was Mashmet. Ishmina v'Khisha, and he was Matkashit. So the din is Mishalim Tashlumi Kefil, Ei Tashlumi Arba v'Chamisha, Kishas Hagneva. He's Mishalim Kishas Hagneva. Now Ganav Tle v'Nasa Ayil, or Egel v'Nasa Sher. So here is Mishalim Tashlumi Kefil, Kishas Hagneva. But Pashtus, it's also there was a Shina. You know, since it was originally an Egel, and now it's a Sher. Originally it was a Tle, now it's an Ayil. So we'll say Behemshel that Nasa Shini biyadei, and therefore he pays Kishas Hagneva. That's that he pays the Kishas Hagneva. Now Tvache, that's who he pays the Kefil Kishas Hagneva. Now Tvache a Mechori Acher Sheigdol. Over here it was Tlev and Nasa Ayil, and then he went ahead and it was Tvache and Mechori. Is Nasa Shinu biyadei v'kineo. So in other words, since it was a Tlev and Nasa Ayil, and now he shechted it, so he shechted something which was already changed. And therefore, v'shaleu teveh, v'shaleu mecher. So he doesn't have to pay for this tfichu mechira. You have to pay a person that steals an item, and the item still belongs to the original balabas, and he goes ahead and he shechts it, which means he's making it even more distant from the original balabas. He's shechting it or he's selling it. So then you have a pchiv or arba v'chamisha. Mashengen, if you steal an item, and then that item becomes shalei, shalehu teveh, shalehu mecher. So therefore, so there's no chiv of dalad vei. Nasa shini biyadi v'kano, and therefore v'shalehu teveach v'shalehu mecher, and therefore v'enu misham tashlumi arba v'chamisha. Then he only has to pay kefil. So that's this thing. Halacha Yudalad. Ganav behema ikelu kietzeben. Ubishas hagneva hoyishava arba. Va'achshav b'shas hamoda bedin shava shnai. So l'chura, even if the item is here, by gzela l'mashal, by gzela their din is that if l'mashal you steal something that was worth arba, and now it's worth shtayim, so you give back the item, because you say aresha l'chol l'fanecha, and therefore you give back the item. Masha'en came by Geneivah, there's a special din that you have to pay the value of the Geneivah that it was worth b'shas Geneivah. That's the din of haleu l'Geneivah kein shegonaf, and that's taka a special din in Geneivah. This is not like some. The Ramah says that if the original behemoth is here, so you can give back the original behemoth. But that's not the Pashtus Lashon HaRambam. The Pashtus Lashon HaRambam is that you always have to pay kishas Geneivah. And this whole din that you can say Areish Shalach L'Fanecha, the Rambam is going to say in Hilchos Gzela, because by Hilchos Gzela taka, if you steal an item that's worth more, and then later on it went down in value, so you could tell them Areish Shalach L'Fanecha. Here's the original item. Agam, it's worth less. Mashenkin by Geneivah, there's a special din Aleo L'Gneva Kein Shagonif. We learn it out from a pasuk, and that's the Pashtus Shitas Rashi also. That so even if the original Geneivah is be'en, you can't give back just the original behemoth. You have to give him back the value of what you stole, and that's another chumrah in Geneivah L'Gabi Gzela. We had a chumrah that Geneivah pays kefil, Daled Vehei, and that was another chumrah. The chumrah is that Haleo L'Gneva Kein Shagonif, that you have to give the keren Kein Shagonif by Geneivah. Nachamol. Ganav behema ikelu kietzeben, ubishas hagneva yishava arba, va'achshav bishas hamada bedin yishava shnayim. So the din is mishalim keren kishas hagneva, and l'chura the pshat is that even if the original keren is here, but you have to be mashlim more. However, tashlum kefil arba v'chamisha, that's kishas hamada bedin, and that you only have to pay how much it's worth now. Now hoyishav, that's talking about originally it was worth 4, now it's worth 2. Now fakert hoyishav bishas hagneva shnayim. So here, im shochat a mochar ishavar akeli ibdei. So then is mishalim tashlumi kefil e arba v'chamisha kishas hamad bedin. However, v'meisa behema ovid akeli me'elov. So then is Mishalem Tashlumi Kefil B'Shas Agneva, Kishas Agneva. There's Nochmal. Here we're talking about a case that originally was worth 2. And Lepel, it went up in value, and then it got lost. So it depends how it got lost. If it got lost from itself, you didn't do anything to make it lost. So then there was nothing you did in order to make it get lost. So when was the Geneivah? The Geneivah when it was worth 2. Lepel, for what happened when it was worth 4, you're not responsible for. And therefore you have to pay for the Geneivah that was worth 2, and you also have to pay for the kefil of that Geneivah that was worth 2, the kefil of Kain Shagonav. You have to pay the kefil of what you did. Masha'enkin, if you were ma'abeded biyodayim, or you shechted it, so be'emes you is like, Achreinim explained that it's like a new Maisa Geneivah, even though you already stole it, but now you have an item you stole something that was worth 2. And now you have an item that's worth 4. And that item that's worth 4, you extended the Geneivah by shechting it or by breaking it. So therefore now you're chayiv as if right now you stole it, and mele you're chayiv side the keren, inside the kefil, inside the dalad ve'eh, you have to pay now kishas amod b'din. That's what he's saying. Im shochat im mocher yishavar akele yivdei is mishalem tashlumi kefil le'arbo v'chamisha kishas amod b'din. However, if it meisa behem le'ovid akele mi'elov, so then you only pay kishas hagneva. So that's this din. So there's 2 din chidushim over here. One chidush is that by Geneivah, even if the keren is be'en, but the Lepel b'shas hagneva was worth more, you have to be mashlim when it was worth more. You can't say arei shalach l'fanacha. That's din number 1. That's din number 1. That's b'negeh the keren. B'negeh the kefil, you pay the kefil as it was worth now, as it's worth now, not as it was worth then. You pay the kefil as it was worth now. That's kishtef tashlumi kefil arba v'chamish kishas amad b'din. Now we learned another din when it was originally worth 2 and then it went up to 4. Before when it was worth 4, now it went down to 2. But now if you have something that was originally worth 2 and now it went up to 4, so if it died by itself or got broken by itself, so you only deal with how much it was worth b'shas hagneva, side for the keren, side for the kefil. Masha'en kein, if you were ma'abed b'yadayim, either you shechted it or you were ma'abed b'yadayim, so right now kili you were mechadish a new ma'is hagneva, so therefore you pay how much it's worth now when you went ahead and broke it. Halacha tezvav. Mi shagonav keli v'shavrei e pichase e nishbar e nifchas me'elov. Now the question is, he wants to pay back. He has to pay back for the Geneivah. So could he pay back the shvarim? When a person is mazik, so all you have to pay is for how much it was worth before and how much it's worth less with the shvarim. But the shvarim still belongs to the original owner. By the Ganav, there's a chidush that you have to pay shnayim chayim. You have to pay. You can't pay, even though bichlal there's a din that you could always pay back with shaveh kesef, with subin. But over here there's a special din, some mechudish din that you can't pay with shivri kalim, because shivri kalim is not chayim. Shivri kalim is like mesim, so therefore you can't pay with shivri kalim. So mi shaganav kalim v'shavri e pichase e nishbar e nifchas me'elov. So the din is ein shamalei abchas elarein kama hayushaveh esekeli. You go ahead and you pay kefil, and the keren you can't pay back with the shvarim plus. And ba'akeli yashavar yilagan, which is a din mechudish by a ganf. V'chein kol kiyetz v'zeh. However, v'imrotzu abaylim little akeli yashavar v'yishalem u'mapchas v'akefil. If the baylim still wants back the shvarim, so then shemulim. So even though be'emes, it's like a double din over here. On one hand, we say that you can't tell the baylim keep the shvarim. So l'churit means you were kind of the shvarim. So if you were kind of the shvarim, how could the baylim mon by you the shvarim? So you have to explain that be'emes you weren't kind of the shvarim. You have a psachiv of shnayim chayim misham. Reb Chaim talks about it in the Sefer. How does it stem these 2 dinim? On one hand, you can't tell him the shvarim are yours, but on the other hand, if he wants the shvarim are his. Halacha tezayin. Haganev shaganav v'tovach imocher lifnei yush bayil. He went ahead and stole, and he was tovach imocher lifnei yush bayil. Is aval pi shalei kana lekech. Lekech didn't really buy it. He didn't really own it. In other words, when a person goes ahead and shechts it, so he shechted it, so he made a shina. So that obviously happened. Masha'enkin, if a person goes ahead and steals an animal, and then he goes and sells it. So really that sale is not a valid sale, because Lepel, the original owner, can still come and want it back. And therefore, the original owner, the nignav, could go and take it back from the lekech. So l'chura, since your sale didn't really affect anything, so to be a svara, you shouldn't be chayiv arba v'chamisha. That's the chiddush. No, harezem mishalim talshlimi arba v'chamisha. He has to pay a tashlimi arba v'chamisha Why? Because he tried to sell it, even though Bepel Mamash he didn't sell it. No, he sold it, but in reality the sale wasn't a real sale. But nevertheless, he has to pay Arba v'chamisha. That's the chiddush. Ein tzorich leimen tovach imacher la'achar yush. L'chura by tovach, there's nothing to talk about. Tovach, Rambam is saying tovach as well. But l'chura by tovach, it's pashut, because l'peil, the tficha affected also. First of all, the tficha affected that it's no longer alive. And secondly, the tficha affected that it's no longer the bailams, because it's considered a shinu. So even without a yush, shinu is kena, that we learned. But I'll call upon the ein tzarich leimen tovach imocher la'achar yush shemishal tashlumi abor v'chamisha shari hail b'maisa v'kona l'ker. The ikar chiddush is b'negeya the mochar, that a person sells a share even though the sale didn't take effect, but the mere fact that he did the act of selling the share, that also warrants that he should be mechuyev in daled vei. Hagoynev halacha yud zayin hagoynev miganav acher. Someone steals something, and now Reuven steals something, and then Shimon goes and steals from Reuven. Is aval pishin is yaishu abaylim, even though the original baylim were miyayish. So lechura, there's a svara to say that it belongs to this new ganav. But nevertheless, eini misham tashlumi kefil. He doesn't pay tashlumi kefil because in reality it's not his. In other words, it really belongs to the original baylim. The Geneivah really belongs to the original baylim, even if he was miyayish. On one hand, we say since he was miyayish, so the shvach is not going to be to the original baylim. But on the other hand, the ganav is mechuyev to return the item to the original bailam. So the chayfetz really belongs to the original bailam. So Mimela, since it belongs to the original bailam, so who is he stealing from? We learn that from Sukkim, but lechura al pashtus, the first person anyways doesn't have it. He doesn't have it, and the second person is not his. So Mimela, so there's no one to pay kefil to. Einim misham tashlumi kefil. It says v'gunam b'beis v'lein beis haganav. V'im tavachu mocher is einim misham tashlumi abor v'chamisha leganav rishon. Sharidin behema zes lachzet be'inel lebalel. In other words, the behema really belongs to the original bailam. And v'lei kana haganav, and the ganav wasn't kainat, and therefore there's no reason to be chayiv kefil or arba v'chamisha to the ganav, even though the original bailam was miyayish. Ule bailam eina mishalim hakefil arba v'chamisha mipnei shelegon v'mrishusam. In other words, he didn't take it away from the rishus of the bailam because it was already nignav anyways. And he didn't take it away from and the fact that he took it away from the rishus of the ganav, good, he took it away from the rishus of the ganav, but it really didn't belong to the ganav. So therefore, a person steals from a beis haganav, there's no chi of kefil, and al derazeh, there's no chi of arba v'chamisha. Now, is there a chi of keren to the ganav rishon in order for the ganav rishon to be able to be mashlim to the nignav? There's a deal. The Rambam just says Eini misham tashlumi kefil. The Rambam doesn't get involved in that problem. In other words, the shaila is there a chiyuv of the keren to the ganav rishon in order for the ganav rishon to have something to give to the ganav sheni, or no, the ganav sheni doesn't know anything to the ganav rishon. Kilu, you have to know. Halacha yudches. Ganav, it's a machlekes rishenim really in this prat. If the ganav owes the ganav sheni owes the ganav rishon keren. Now ganav v'tovach. Person was ganav and tovach. Now ubo ganav acher v'ganav. He comes and he steals the basar. So then haganav acher mishal tashlumi kefil the ganav rishon. So now the ganav rishon really now owns the basar. He was kind of b'shinu. So therefore, it's the basar is his. He was taka a ganav and he was chayiv the arba v'chamisha to the original owner. But lepel he owns now the basar. So therefore, he's mishalim tashlumi kefil the ganav rishon shari kana b'shinu ma'isa, and the ganav rishon is mishalim tashlumi arba v'chamisha. Now ganav umochar, a person steals something and he sells, and then he sells it. And then ubo acher v'ganav min alekech, and then he goes and he steals it from the buyer. So Nachamal, there was a ganav rishon, and then he sold it, and now there was a ganav sheni that was ganav from the buyer. So it depends: is it the buyer's or not? Is im nisyayish bailim? If the original bailim were nisyayish, so Memela it comes out. So it is the buyer's because he was kaina with yush and shini rishus. So Memela hari arishin mishalim at tashlumi arba v'chamisha. Now the truth of the matter is he pays tashlumi arba v'chamisha regardless if there was yush. But harishin mishalim tashlumi arba v'chamisha and v'aganav hasheni mishalim tashlumi kefil because he's stealing it from the second buyer, from the buyer, which the buyer really owns it. However, v'im lei nisyayish bailim, if the original owner was never nisyayish, so they know eno achron mishalim or the keren buvad. He only pays keren because lepeil the achron owes keren to the lekech.